up, guys? Today we're gonna pump you up, we're gonna motivate you. This is it, guys. This is the video that's gonna change your life. Can you do that? Yes, you can. You know why? Because I believe in you. Yeah. Okay, no, I can't keep this up for more than 5 seconds. Okay, relax. This isn't gonna be one of those cliche motivational videos. But seriously, I have been doing YouTube for, a reasonable amount of time now. And I get asked a lot of questions on a variety of different topics related to macronutrients and nutrition and training strategies and programming and periodization, supplementation and genetics and metabolism. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. But honestly, guys, to this day, probably one of the most common questions that I get asked is simply put, how do you stay motivated? And guys, that is the purpose of today's video. I'm going to share 8 of my kind of personal, tidbits of advice or tips to help keep you motivated, primarily and especially if you're in your first, 1, maybe 2 years of training. It is during that time that I think people are very susceptible to kind of getting frustrated, not seeing the progress they want or not seeing it as fast as they want, and unfortunately getting demotivated and giving up. One thing which I'm really proud of myself for doing when I was younger is when I first started working out, I actually took a decent amount of progress pictures. And even though I didn't look that great, I was like 6 feet tall and 155 pounds, it was still an improvement over a few months before. And those small changes month to month, week to week, or in some cases years to years, it motivated me like fucking crazy. It was awesome. The big problem is that when you look at yourself in the mirror every day, let's say you wake up, you brush your teeth, you're looking at your body, no matter what you're doing in the gym, you're probably not going to see visual changes on a day-to-day basis. Fat loss is a relatively slow process and muscle gain is an even slower process, and that kind of makes sense. I mean, when you think about it, you're eating food, taking it in your stomach, breaking it down with stomach acid down to its pretty much molecular components, transporting it to different parts of your body along the bloodstream, and then rebuilding it in the place that you want it to, like proteins assembling individually in your biceps, your triceps. It's a pretty damn awesome concept, and yeah, it takes a little bit of time. So if you look in the mirror on a day-to-day basis, you're probably not gonna see it, but if you step back, look at the big picture, yeah, I think you're gonna like it. Keep it simple, stupid. This is something I see a lot of people making a big mistake, especially in their initial first year of training. And it's something which almost immediately it leads to people getting demotivated, frustrated, and a lot of times they end up giving up. This is a way I like to look at it. Your body, a lot of people, you, me, everybody out there, we like to think of ourselves as, Lamborghinis, when in reality we are gently used 2013 Toyota Corollas. What I mean by that is that you can't go 0 to 100 in 2 seconds. So they may do something like, okay, it's your first day in the gym, and I'm gonna do 6 days per week, an hour and a half, 2 hours in the gym, high volume, high frequency, high intensity, doing overly complex, I don't even know how to bench press and bicep curl, and you're already on to do a clean and jerk with freaking this and that, and I don't even know what this is. People find themselves in the gym, pretty much treating it like it's a side part-time job, and a lot of people out there who aren't, they haven't acclimatized, this is embarrassing. Fitness is supposed to complement my life, not completely take over my life, and then they give up. So tip number 1 is simply put, taper it down a little bit. There is nothing wrong with that. A really good way of doing this, and I highly recommend this, is simply cut down your training frequency to something like 3, maybe even as little as 2 workouts per week, ideally doing a full body split. And this could be something super basic, like 5 to 6 exercises, maybe 3 sets of 8, 3 sets of 10 reps for each exercise, and you do 1 to 2 exercises per each major muscle group in the body. And you essentially just repeat that 3, maybe even 2 times per week and just change up the exercises. It doesn't have to be that complicated, and you don't need to spend 17 hours a week in the gym. At least not in the beginning. Down the road, if you stick to it, you could get a little bit more complicated. You start to throw in additional variables and frequency and volume and periodization and all of these things. But at least for your 1, maybe first, 2 years of training, keep it nice and simple. This video is sponsored by NordVPN because supporting a semi-obese dog is expensive. See, the problem is that when you're online, everything you do is visible to a third party, such as your internet service provider or even hackers trying to steal personal information, similar to that of credit card fraud. And this is where NordVPN comes in, because basically all of your data goes through Nord servers before it goes anywhere else in the world. So your ISP can't see what you're downloading, such as with P2P sharing, what websites you're visiting, or what sexy photos you're sending to your significant other, because all it sees is that you're connected to Nord, and that's it. And on top of that, all of your data is protected with military-grade encryption for added privacy. So unless you're being hacked by Skynet, yeah, it's pretty much impossible for anyone to see what you're doing. Think of it this way. In 2019, going online without a VPN, it's kind of like benching without a spotter, where it's all fun and games until you're about to decapitate yourself. And then yeah, you're really glad you took the extra precaution. For a limited time, you can get 75% off of a 3-year plan at nordvpn.com/VitruvianPhysique. This offer makes your subscription just $3 a month, and you can browse securely on all your devices, including your mobile phone. Also, as an added bonus, use the code VitruvianPhysique at checkout to get an extra month free. So guys, if you are interested, just hit the link in the description box below. Okay, for this next tip, it might come across as a little controversial, but this is something which I do want to mention, as it is at times a source of demotivation for some people out there, and I don't necessarily want to tiptoe around this one. Be careful of seeing just this bombardment of physiques out there and comparing yourself to them, because I gotta be honest, guys, and I'm not over-exaggerating, I would say that the majority, over 50% of the most popular fitness social media personalities, or whatever you want to call them out there, a lot of people are on, they're taking a little, a little something extra, a little vitamin S. A good example of this, and I've actually never talked about this on my channel, but I think it is kind of relevant. So when I first got really seriously into working out, not in high school when I kind of dicked around with weights, but when I was in college, like my first or second year, I was like 19, 20 years old, there was one guy at the gym, and you know, like every gym has like that one guy, that one jack motherfucker who comes in, lifts like 50% more than anybody in there. Yeah, I saw that and I was like, that's my goal. Now, I knew that steroids were a thing. I didn't know how prevalent they were at the time, but I knew that, okay, I'm not gonna look like Ronnie Coleman. I'm probably not gonna ever look like Arnold Schwarzenegger either. I mean, I love Arnold. The guy was the most entertaining, interesting person I have ever seen at the time. But at the end of the day, I knew that, listen, Arnold, luckily, was honest about the use of
steroids are taken 8 or 9, 10 weeks before competition.
Did you take them?
I take them. I took them, yeah, up until the competition.
And I knew that I'm probably never going to look like that. And I thought, that's okay. But this guy, you know, he's not Arnold, but he's still pretty damn jacked. But this guy, I'm pretty, you know, I believe he didn't really talk about his use of vitamin S. I'm pretty sure he might have even claimed natural. And I thought, okay, well, he's not Arnold at 230, you know, 240 pounds and 6'2". This guy was like I think he was like, when he was at his leanest, he might have been like in the mid 190s, maybe 200 pounds. And I thought, okay, he's like Arnold minus 30 pounds. This is a good lifetime goal to aim for. Yeah, I thought I can get here in 5 years if I really train hard, give it my all, hard work and dedication. And then I found out, no, that's all bullshit. He's on the juice. And I found out not from like thinking like, oh, he's too big or too shredded. No, I actually found out from a friend of a friend who kind of, you know, somebody who directly knew the situation. I'm gonna leave it at that. I don't want to get more into it. But essentially I found out that, that chicken isn't exactly organic. Now, I'm not saying this caused like some terrible existential crisis where I thought like, oh no, my whole life has been a lie. No, it wasn't that exaggerated and dramatic, but I'll be honest, it did kind of suck. And for a few months there, I kind of thought like, well, you know, that's kind of shitty. I mean, that was a big source of motivation. That was like my end game. That was my end goal. And it turns out that end goal is probably not, it's not that I'm not going to get there. It's just that there's nothing I could do to get there. It's just not possible, period. Looking back on it now, like I should have known, because those stats are pretty fucking insane. Yeah, I was young, I was naive, and now I think I know a thing or two more about, you know, natural capabilities of the human body, but nonetheless, it did suck a little bit. So that's pretty much my advice when it comes to this topic. I think I'm gonna leave it at that. Just letting you guys know that when it comes to social media, you know, you gotta treat it a little bit with a grain of salt, and you gotta be a little bit more cautious, at least more so than I was when I was a young, naive, you know, 19-year-old kid. Goku and Vegeta, Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger, Thor and the Hulk, Naruto and Sasuke, even Ash Ketchum, and that self-entitled little asshole Gary. Rivalries just make things more interesting, and 9 times out of 10, it's going to result in both parties pushing their limits to places where by themselves they probably would have never gotten to. And yes, I could sit here, and I've said this 1,000 times before, guys, like, you should only compare yourself to yourself, train to be the best you that you can be, and yada yada, that's all nice, but at the end of the day, sometimes you just want to find someone and kick their ass. I have found personally that it really helps to have someone to just have a little bit of friendly competition going back and forth with them. Ideally, I would recommend someone who is relatively similar to you, because if you're gonna go, toe-to-toe with someone on, who can get stronger on a certain lift or gain more muscle or improve, and you're, going against someone who's 6 inches taller, 50 pounds heavier, or you're in your first year of training and they're in 10 years of experience in the gym, it might throw things a little off. But if you can find someone who's relatively similar to your current physical proportions or experience level, I really think it's gonna help motivate you. Next up is goals, because specifically what kind of goals you actually set yourself, that really is going to have an impact on your motivation to actually reach and hit those goals. And specifically when I'm talking about goals, I'm referring to RCS, realistic, challenging, and specific. These are 3 things I want you to keep in mind, because if you don't have all 3 of these, there's a good chance that you might, somewhere along the way, you may get demotivated, you may fall off the horse, and you may never actually get to your end goal. You want something that is actually realistic, because if you bench press 135 pounds for a set of 5, chances are you're not going to hit 315 in the next 6 months. You may not know this now, but in a month or 2, you're probably going to figure it out. And when that time comes, yeah, you're probably not going to be that motivated to keep going and fall short of your goal by 200 pounds. But I will give you credit, because that goal was sure as hell challenging. If you set your goals as being just something that you can easily do, then what the fuck are you doing? Why even set yourself goals? That's just you going through the motions, going through life. You're gonna do that anyway. You don't need to set yourself, that goal to begin with. This is why nobody plays video games on easy mode. It's like, okay, you're just sitting here like pretty much just doing a manual labor job. There's no point to it. When you were a kid and you were 8 years old and you played soccer and the coach came around, like, everybody gets a trophy, everybody gets a participation medal, and you get it and you're like, I don't give a shit. There's something about the human spirit which just naturally drives motivation and a feeling of success from actually overcoming some level of adversity or something of a decent challenge. Otherwise, you're not going to be that motivated. And even if you do hit that whatever little goal you have, it's like, screw it, you're just wasting your time. And finally, specific goals. I'm a big believer that if you set yourself something, which is actually, ideally quantitative with actual numbers, there's a much higher chance of you actually getting to that goal. If somebody comes to you and they're like, my goal is to be healthier, or be more fit. It's kind of like, okay, that's great, and I'm happy for you, but what the fuck does that mean? Giving yourself somewhat of a specific as opposed to this wishy-washy, ambiguous goal, in my opinion, and from personal experience, it's really gonna have a much higher chance of you actually getting to your end goal. Otherwise, you're like a ship that leaves the harbor and has no idea, where it's going. It doesn't have a map, doesn't have a heading, doesn't know shit. It's gonna be lucky if it makes it home. It's gonna be lucky if it doesn't sink, capsize, and everybody drowns. So one thing I want to make perfectly clear is that when I talk about fitness, I am not specifically and solely talking about working out with weights, bench, bicep curl, squat, and dieting and doing like bodybuilding or trying to look good. No, when I say fitness, I mean anything at all which is going to get your ass off the couch, get you moving, and have a positive impact on your life. I went from purely focusing on bodybuilding, especially the beginning of this channel back in like 2014 and 15. Then I kind of did a few powerlifting competitions just for fun, just to experiment with a different style of training. Then last year, you guys know, I jumped into a bit of sprint training. I really started doing sprint interval, high intensity cardio training, just to give myself something new, a different type of exercise, a different way of using my muscles that I've never done before. And this year, I actually haven't talked about it on this channel. I'll probably do future videos. I did talk about it on Instagram once. I've been getting into rock climbing. I actually saw Free Solo, which if you guys haven't seen, it's a documentary on Alex Honnold. He's this guy, he pretty much climbs like 3,000 foot tall mountains with no ropes. Like literally, it's him, his hands, his legs, and underneath there's like 7,000 feet of air, and if he drops, then he drops. And so for 2 or 3 months now, I've been rock climbing fairly consistently. It's just awesome. It's a new type of fitness, a new way to use your body that I've never experienced, and because of that, it's like you're a kid on Christmas. So essentially what I'm trying to tell you guys is that if you want to try something new and maybe move into a different style or a different form of fitness, do it. Go for it. Don't feel the necessity to just be like, go in the gym like a robot, day in and day out for the next 3 decades, just bench, squat, bicep curl. Don't ever deviate from that plan because fuck the plan. The plan is whatever you want it to be. As long as you're moving and using your body, it's all part of the plan. Okay, for this next tip, it may sound a little weird, but bear with me. CrossFit. Okay, easy there. Not that. This. When it comes to CrossFit, one thing they have, which I gotta be honest, like I do think it is somewhat missing from the typical standard recreational gym, is a very tight-knit and close feeling of community. This is something which I don't really see oftentimes in the gym. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what bodybuilding really is. It is the ultimate of solitary solo sports, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but for a lot of people out there, when they first get started, especially in their first year or so, this is a time when things like positive reinforcement are so crucial, and it can really help you actually stay the course and actually stick to fitness for the long term. You going into the gym and kind of just doing this solo solitary thing, you kind of just do your bicep curls or you do your ab crunches. I gotta be honest, for a lot of people out there, it may not seem like that fun of an activity, but if you're doing this high intensity, quick paced workout, you're doing it with like your entire gym, kind of like a team, or maybe like you and a partner or something like that, it is a bit more fast paced, it is a bit more fun, it's more of an activity as opposed to, really putting the work in workout. And guys, finally, tip number 8. This one is a little bit more philosophical than the other points I mentioned previously in the video, but essentially, remember why you started. And I know that some of you guys out there may be thinking like, well, obviously that's common sense. You don't need to include this in the video, Igor, we know, but bear with me. I do think it's something that a lot of times, myself included, we tend to forget. When I first started with training, back in high school and college, when I first really fell in love with it, there were certain reasons why I was actually in the gym, why I'm in there, lifting the weight, doing things which at times are kind of hard, kind of painful, eating these ways. There were reasons, as cheesy as it sounds. I kind of wanted to look like my childhood heroes. I didn't want to be the guy who just watches even something like anime. I know, it's kind of nerdy, but it's true. I didn't just want to look at Goku and be like, oh, he's a cool guy, but whatever. No, I want to be like you. And one way I can do that, obviously I can't shoot freaking lasers out my hands and save the world and fly, but I can build a physique somewhat similar to that. And I can work out hard like him. Obviously he's training under 1,000 times Earth normal gravity, whereas I am just doing bench press in the gym. But it's a similar case, that hard work ethic that I admired and I wanted to emulate myself. I wanted to improve my self-confidence. I felt that in high school, me being kind of like a skinny, twiggy kind of kid, I'd look at guys who are a little bit more jacked or a little bit taller or just a little bit physically bigger, and I thought, well, they seem a little bit more confident, so maybe if I achieve that, then I'll feel that way too. And obviously that's kind of oversimplifying it, but to a certain extent, yeah, it has helped. You improving your perception of your own body, it improves your sense of body image, and that in turn is going to have a positive impact on your confidence. And also, let's be honest, I kind of wanted to look good for girls, which is always a positive. I gotta be honest, I wish I can say I was perfect, and for the last 14 years of me training, I have never once lost sight of why I'm doing this, but it has happened in the past, especially me a few years ago, combining it from just like this passion or this hobby into my actual career. Sometimes you forget why you're doing things. Why are you losing weight? Why are you shredding body fat? Why are you trying to, compete or powerlift or whatever it is that you were doing? Why are you doing this? And sometimes other things get in the way. I gotta be bigger than this guy. This other guy on YouTube, he looks like this. I gotta be better than him. I gotta be leaner than him. Or, if I have a better body and if I do this and that, then my channel will grow bigger. And if your channel grows bigger, then you make more money and all this other dumb shit. And sometimes I gotta be honest, I've had to kind of step back and realize, like, wait a second, why did you start doing this? You have to kind of remind yourself, and it really does help you kind of fall in love with fitness all over again. And I've talked to other guys in the industry. I'm not gonna call out any names, obviously, but I've talked to people and they're like, yeah, they agree with me. That's why some guys in the industry, they start off being like pure fitness, and over time they kind of gravitate towards more, everything but fitness, like more like life and vlogs and all that other stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that, but then you realize, like, yeah, some people do, to a certain extent, a little bit fall out of love with lifting. It happens to all of us. It has happened to me in the past. And in those cases, I really think it's best to sit down and remind yourself, why did you actually start doing this? And whatever your reasons may be, you have to like kind of zero in on them and remind them and keep them, at the back of your head. And keep that there. And I guarantee that even if you do have bad days or weeks, you'll never actually fall out of fitness, and you'll be in it for the long term. Okay guys, that is it. That is the end of the video. I apologize once again, as always, if it went very long, because I think it did. It's freaking like midnight right about now. My voice is pretty much gone, so I'm just gonna wrap it up right around here. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you guys, as always, and I'll see you in the next video.